In this week's episode, we're going to be discussing how to be successful when it comes to deer hunting in the month of October.
Mossy Oak Properties, where outdoorsmen find their favorite place.
When it comes to deer hunting, there's many ways to accomplish one's goal, right? Shoot a big buck, as the Amish say. But yeah, there's strategies of when to be in the stand, when not to be in the stand. When it comes to the rut, hey, you've got to be in that stand all day if you can stand it, because you never know when it can happen.
Yeah.
But there's months like October when hunting's smarter. Maybe staying at home or doing, hunting food sort, whatever it is a lot different than the old November aspect of things.
I think when most people think about deer hunting, they think of November. I mean, and that's the most popular time to be in the woods because of the rut. But as I've gotten older, November has become, it's not that I don't enjoy it, but I enjoy hunting October more than I do the rut in November, because there's a little more strategy involved, and you kind of have to be more intentional with the decisions that you're making and how you go about trying to be successful in harvesting a deer. And in this video, we're going to go over just some tips and some strategies and some thoughts to consider when hunting whitetails in the month of October. And I think, as you mentioned, we'll start right off the bat. You kind of have to hunt smarter, not harder.
Yes.
During the rut in November, I mean, you put in the time. It could be 70 degrees at noon, and a 5-year-old 170-inch deer could come by your stand looking for a doe. Hunting at noon and 70 degrees, October 10th, probably not a good idea.
Not a good thing.
No. So you got to be more thoughtful in how you go about it. And as you mentioned, you hunt smarter, not harder. Maybe less time in the woods is more beneficial to your success. Yeah,
and we live in a world of social media. You can't get away from it, and it's a topic that doesn't get discussed enough. I mean, we are human, and we get sucked into what other people are doing. That's what it is.
Right.
And when you get on social media, you will see people being successful, shooting a 5-year-old 70 degrees in the middle of the afternoon. You're like, I got to get out there.
Yeah.
No, you know your deer. Yeah. And you're hunting for yourself and not for those other people. Sometimes, like I think the direction Cody was going to go at, you can overhunt your property.
Right.
Being sucked in on what other people are doing.
Right. We wait all year for deer season, and when the calendar turns over to opening day, it's so tempting to jump in head first and to go and hunt hard from opening day till the end of season. But it's a long season. 3 or 4 months, depending on your state. Play the long game. And for me, during the month of October especially, and I know my sleep schedule appreciates it, I like to sleep in the mornings and focus most of my attention in my hunting time in the afternoons. If I'm hunting mornings, usually those deer are already back to bed before the sun comes up. If I go too hard in the mornings or push in too deep, I'm going to educate deer. And again, it's a long season. Play the long game. If you're bumping and educating deer in October, those deer are going to relocate, or they're going to be awful skittish and move less during the daylight throughout the rest of the season. So sleep in. Deer are going to be back to bed and not in a hunting situation where you can take advantage of it more times than not in the morning, unless you've got a buck pattern or something that tells you that you can be more successful, and focus your time in the afternoons around food sources especially.
Yeah, ultimately we train deer, we educate deer. Don't do all your educating on those old does right off the bat.
Right.
I know I have friends that opening day came this year and they hunted. It was so warm. They hunted all day. Save that all day energy for later,
right.
Later in the month. When we talk about October and hunting, later in the day instead of that morning, that's not for, from beginning to the end of October.
Right.
There are parts of October, especially toward Halloween, that, you want to start reverting. As the season gets closer to fall, that November, your hunting tactics are going to obviously change. But when opening day comes to into the 21st or whatever that is, hunting smarter, hunting later in the day, saving, not educating deer, that is definitely a key to being successful. Now, there's a lot of people out there who go, I hunt mornings, not the evenings. It's just, this is Cody and Eric's opinion of it,
right.
But yeah, there are other tactics as well.
Yeah, and another thing that I like to focus on, as I mentioned, is food sources. Because whether it's acorns or corn, beans, food plots, deer early season are uneducated. As we mentioned, you don't want to be educating deer. Deer are relaxed right now. They're uneducated. They move very confidently during the daylight. oftentimes early in the afternoons when they're going to a food source. So I like to put a lot of time and effort around those food sources, get in nice and clean, and deer are on a bed to food pattern similar to the summer, not those same summer food sources, but especially like you mentioned, that first half of October, they're on a bed to food pattern. I leave those deer alone in the morning, sneak into an afternoon food source spot for the afternoon, and that's really where I focus a lot of my time and energy, especially the first half of October.
Yeah, and if you did your management strategies, you know, looking at acorn production, what was it on your property prior to hunting season? Did I have a good acorn crop? Obviously, hunting a nice cool October evening, early evening, you might get the opportunity to shoot that buck of a lifetime on a nice oak flat or whatever, or your does. You harvested some does right off the bat. You notice that the acorn, you know, they're at acorns and you're trying to shoot more does. All that information that we talked prior is going to be a strategy for that early to mid-October scenario, because I tell you what, those bucks, they do occasionally expose themselves. They do make those mistakes in that that October lull that we talk about, where you never see anything, right?
Right. That's something to really consider too. I mean, as we mentioned, the rut gets all of our attention, and it's such a fun time to be in the woods, because young bucks, old bucks, you hit it right, the weather, all the stars align, and you can see deer running around acting crazy, bucks chasing does, fighting. It's a wonderful time of year, but you can almost be more effective if you've got a buck on your property and you've got good habitat and you know your property well. October might actually be the best time to kill him, because as we mentioned, he's on a bed to food pattern, he's moving, he's uneducated, he's relaxed, and he's moving maybe more, not predictably, but less chaotically. Like what they do when they're during the rut, and they're like a pinball machine making star shapes chasing a doe. Early season October, they are more intentional with their movements, and you can capitalize on that.
Yeah, we talked about acorns and the early food sources and stuff, but food plots. You have your main food plots, and if you have the room or have the property to do multiple type of scenarios, management strategies, having food plots that are easy to get in and out, created in there, we kind of treat them like doe-only plots.
Right.
Especially, I mean, you're not going way back in toward your bedding area and hunting a food plot early season or into mid and expect not to do any damage, but having some food plots that are closer to a road or whatever, in and out access, and you know you're not expecting that 5-year-old to show up,
right?
You know, so it's in and out access, a real simple food plot, buckwheat, rye, wheat, whatever is just affordable that you can get, that you know those does will utilize.
Right. In addition to food sources, another resource that I focus on this time of year, because temperatures, even if they're seasonable, they're still warm, and we mentioned it in a trail camera video, but this time of year, a lot of natural browse is starting to dry up. Food sources are shifting from water-based native vegetation to corn, beans, acorns. There's water content in those food sources, but less than native vegetation. So I like to focus, if you've got it on your property, a water source, whether that's a natural water hole, a tank in the ground, a creek, whatever the case may be. Deer, oftentimes water is a limited resource no matter what property you're on. If you can intentionally put a water source in a favorable hunting situation, you're going to see deer. Oftentimes older age class bucks will come to water in the afternoons especially, and you can have some great hunting opportunities over water early season.
So there's a small sample size of October hunting, deer hunting strategies. We talked about hunting water, you know, hunting smart when it comes to the food sources, and maybe even not hunting the mornings as much as the evenings. But again, you know, there's many, it depends on the region of the country, even the county, you know, your property will dictate whether you should hunt mornings instead of evenings. This is not a set in stone and don't hunt mornings. That's not at all. Especially as October gets moving on and that early rut, that stuff comes upon you. But yeah, just hunting smarter. You know, don't get sucked into the social media aspect of things, because you know what? People are going to kill mature, older class whitetails October 1st. Yeah. It will happen, especially in certain states where baiting is allowed and stuff like that, and those bucks are still conditioned, you know. But yeah, things do happen. But as overall, just hunt smarter is the key thing, and use your cameras, use your survey work to dictate when you should be out there and when you should just hang back and just, you know, chill.
Right, and these are all just things to consider that we think can make you more successful in the woods. As Eric mentioned, don't get caught up at what other people are doing and what we've communicated in this video. Take what makes sense and applies to you and pitch the rest. And by all means, we suggested not hunting in the mornings, but beautiful fall mornings spent in a tree stand are invaluable. If you want to go deer hunting, don't feel like you have to listen to us and because we said maybe it's better in the afternoon. If you want to go deer hunting in the morning, go deer hunting in the morning. Sit, enjoy the colors, enjoy the cool weather, beautiful fall morning. These are just tips, strategies, thoughts, more than anything else to consider, because as we mentioned, hunting in October does require a little bit more strategy, a little bit more intentionality than hunting in November during the rut. And these are just things to consider before you go out into the woods in October that can maybe increase your chances of success.
Mossy Oak Properties, where outdoorsmen find their favorite place.